Let's do a quick roll call. Robert,
Yes, here.
Glenn, Jeff here, Tom McKinley, Christina Beck. All right, packed house. I have the agenda here. Pretty much follows along what Kyle emailed out. So, Robert, if I get a motion to approve the agenda.
So made.
All right, I will second. The minutes, did we send the minutes out, Kyle, from last meeting?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Yeah, I did see those. You're right. They're right here. All right. So, Mr. Simmons, again, if you can make a motion
Make a motion.
to approve.
So.
I'll second. Awesome. Andrew, we have anybody from the community on this call yet?
No, there is not, and we did not open the actual Zoom up.
Okay.
So we've not received any kind of email comments in advance or anything like that.
Okay.
Perfect.
With that, I'll leave it to the park director's report, Mr. Bennett.
Okay. Biggest thing here, guys, and you guys should have this in front of you for the most part. If you guys, the biggest thing is I sent a picture of we had some damage to the steps to the slides. You can still get up to it. I sent 2 pictures of it actually in the actual update. It's our biggest slides in our centerpiece. We have 5 steps that somebody took a mallet to, it looks like, and popped, just cracked is what it all amounts to. We've got it caution taped off. You can also still get to it through climbing through the ladder part of it. Just the steps leading from one slide to the other is where this is. So you can still use it, still get up there, but there are some steps that do have issues. We do have caution tape up on both ends of it to keep kids off of it. But that's just something I just want to kind of tell you guys about. If it's okay with you guys, again, with us looking to put some money in, you're looking at, when I contacted the place to replace these, you're looking at probably close to about $6,500 just for the steps. That doesn't count the installation of taking stuff off. Probably have to buy a couple tools to get that job done. So the best thing to do, I think right now, since winter's coming and hopefully bidding this out to keep what we've got, I can easily put some plywood on top of the steps if you're worried about that, and put some of the kind of like sandpaper finish on top so nobody can slide on the plywood. We can do that as a quick fix just for the time being, because again, we're talking about replacing the playground anyway. I think it's kind of doesn't make a lot of sense to put a lot of money into something that we're probably going to replace. So just want to throw that out there so you guys can talk about that to start with. Jeff, Robert, you guys got any kind of 2 cents one way or the other on that?
Is that a pretty safe alternate, Kyle, to put something on there with some kind of footing on it? I mean,
yes. In all honesty, absolutely. We would do it with an inch plywood. Cut those to length. We would drill into the actual fixture to, again, it's not going to go anywhere. We'll definitely can make sure it doesn't go anywhere. The biggest thing I worry about is when plywood gets wet, it can get slippery.
Right.
On it. But I think we put that slick surface, I call it sandpaper, but it's not sandpaper. But we put that on top of it. I'm pretty sure that we're going to be fine. So no kids are going to be falling or anything like that on it. Again, we would trim the edges off, things like that. So none of that stuff's going to be of an issue. I think that's
You can
do
that there's a tape that goes on, or as well as a paint that can go on as well. Sometimes the paint is cheaper.
What kind of paint is that? You know, off right hand, Robert?
No, but I can do some checking on it. It may be as simple as just any kind of latex or something. Just throw some sand in it too. So.
Okay, yeah, exactly. That's exactly what I'm talking about. The sandpaper finish. It's just stuff you stick on steps and on outdoor stuff now is what I'm looking at. Just quick contact kind of stuff.
Yeah, any kind of an outdoor paint would work. So.
All right.
Yeah,
all right.
it would make sense.
You guys okay for the most part with the quick fix? And if it's still up, again, if it's still up and we're not going to do this, do the playground part of it, we can fix it correctly. It's no problem. I
think we need to do, for now at least.
Yes. All right. Just making sure that that's what everybody kind of agrees with.
I don't think we're going to get weekend weather like we had this past weekend.
No doubt. In all
Different
honesty,
story.
like, and again, just it's not even up to it, but usually we can stay open till the end of. Lately, we've been stay open until the first week of December, till we get like 3 or 4 straight days of freezing. If you guys look at the 10-day forecast, 15-day forecast right now, it looks like we'll be open probably till the beginning of December right now. I mean, unless something drastically changes, we're going to easily be open past Thanksgiving. So that's positive. I mean, it's open. They're still playing pickleball. We still have football teams up there. We still have a bunch of groups still using it. So that's positive. The restrooms are open and everything else. I don't know if you guys have been up there. The handicap spots are taken care of. We've done Crossroads came in and did the parking, and the actual pickleball and tennis people that I've seen have been using it. So that's a positive. I still got to put up a handicap sign. I got to get with Matt Stegman to get some a handicap sign, but we actually have it on the ground, if that makes sense. Crossroads put a handicap symbol sign on the ground. So that is done. And we actually added about a 4-foot buffer. So if you try to get out of a car on the end, it gives you a little bit more room. So there shouldn't be any kind of issue with parking on that at all. So that's positive. Other than those issues at the park, we're not any kind of an issue. So General Ormsby Mitchell's good to go. We talked about the Crescent Park. I got a double rim. I just got it in. We're going to put up over at Crescent. Somebody tore that rim off, so we're going to replace that rim. So that'll be done probably this weekend. Over at Irish Road, we don't have any kind of issues. Again, basketball court over there is perfect. Just going off, Robert, I know you weren't at the joint meeting, but I sent that an update, the park overview. Chief went over that with the joint meeting with the city council. Okay, Glenn's getting ready to join, guys. He just texted me. But kind of just going over the history of the actual park board. I thought it was kind of interesting to hear that. We again draw our money from 2 cents per $100 property tax. That tax was started in 1975. 1968 is when the actual park board was approved. The tax was for care and maintenance of the park. And it says park, not parks, plural like we have now. To change that tax, we would need a referendum vote. And I think, and Jeff, correct me if I'm not correct here, the city understands it's the park board's responsibility is really to maintain what we have. If we want something more, it is kind of up to the city and city council to pitch in to get those funds. The actual park board funds really aren't for add-on items, major items in the park. Jeff, would you say that's a very good way of saying what we came out of that meeting with?
Sounds pretty accurate.
To go on down, Robert, we had a real good meeting. I thought it was a really good meeting. Again, they have said that they would give us a $750,000 loan for 10 years, which Jeff's going to beg forgiveness on 10 straight years. The city will give us, again, $500,000 towards the project. And really, those are kind of things that we're going to do that's going to help the city, for such as being ADA appliant and other things that are kind of help us to be city maintained kind of thing. So all that's out there. One of the things that the mayor and the city council have kind of put off onto us is that we really need to see what we're doing, what we're adding. Is it what we want to add? Is there anything else that we might be leaving off, such as the playground equipment's 14 years old? The life cycle was 12 to 15, so we're right there with that. That's something we might want to add also. We looked at that capital improvement plan. I know that Glenn just now joined.
I'm on. Yeah, sorry, it took me a few
That's
extra
okay.
minutes.
One of the things with that plan, if you look at the park budget projections that I sent you, there was a typo on the first one that Amy sent to us. Didn't have the correct financial numbers, but each year you're carrying over at the least $77,000 is what we're carrying over at the least, and that's in 2024-25. I know that Mr. McKinley's not here to talk, but he likes having $100,000 carryover just for anything that we might have an issue with, something major that might happen. So we would be under that, but we are financially stable looking at that loan again for that 10-year period. And again, that was having capital expenditures of about 1.4 million, to where if you look at what I sent today, it would be about 1.3 million for what we, again, looked at before in our last bid project. Let's see. And again, I think the first thing that we kind of need to do, Jeff, is just look at I'm trying to find it here in my notes. If you look at what I sent to you guys today, was the renovation total cost, again, was 1.3 million. And I broke it down to show you guys what we're really spending on each individual item. Like the walking trail, which is a sidewalk, path, and the steps, about 156,000. If you look at all the sidewalks, all the path, all the steps. The pavilion itself is 435,000. The baseball field orientation, about 110. Dugouts, 32,000. Batting cage, 15,000. The only thing I couldn't get a good number on was the amphitheater, because it's really built into what they're doing grade wise. And so I couldn't get a number for that, but it's very, yeah, if you remember the meetings when we had with Bayer and Becker, the cost of that, they said, was almost minimal, because it's really 3 to 4 indentions into the grading. If you remember them saying that. So the actual cost of that is really minimal, other than the concrete pad at the bottom. Do you remember him saying that, Jeff?
Yeah, that's exactly what he said. And also, I mean, when we met with him that one time, I was pretty shocked it was $100,000 to move a baseball field. But in that cost is also getting everything ready to where you can put the walking trail, and I mean, that's not just to move a baseball field.
That would be the excavation, the whole thing down there, the whole excavation, the clay, the dirt, everything being changed around, and also the seating coming back in at the end.
Right.
Parking lot, about 160,000. The tennis court resurfacing, 34 grand, and the landscaping just around the entire park, grass, stuff like that, 45,000. Those are numbers just kind of wanted you guys to, you see those 2-page bills. I know that Robert deals with this on a daily basis, but you know, I just wanted to break stuff down to show you what those costs really were, not just broken down into single line items. If you look back, we spent about 225,000 14 years ago on the playground that we currently have. And again, that's what you're looking at. If you look to do a playground like we have, there's a lot of things that I know now that when we first did this, I probably wouldn't do again. So there's things that we can definitely improve on if we're looking to go that way. Another thing left off of that initial bid process was a entrance sign. I mean, we were tearing out what we had, and we weren't replacing it with anything. And again, you put this beautiful pavilion, beautiful everything else, and we didn't have any place in there for an entrance sign. That's something we probably need to have up there. Some with General Ormsby Mitchell or the history or something. So that's something we definitely need to keep up there. But when you look at those amenities that we look to add, if you guys go to that survey results that I had, and that survey results you can look at all like what was most important really to the actual residents that took this 4 years ago was the running trail. 67% of the people thought that was, they agreed, slightly agreed, or strongly agreed that that would be a cool thing to have. The next biggest one was the renovation of the buildings. The next one was, again, the renovation of the fields. And then the third one, again, 4 years ago, was the playground being renovated. So that would be number 4. Also, I think the biggest thing on that whole entire thing is on 7, and that's the items of importance. And again, those are inverted. So the 7 would be the most important. That's the playground by our residents. The second biggest one was the tennis courts. The third one was the volleyball court. Fourth one, baseball, then soccer, and then the pavilion. Or excuse me, it was baseball, and then the volleyball, then the tennis, and then basketball. My bad. Tennis was second to the least, which now, again, 4 years later, I would say that's probably one of the top 2 or 3. So again, those are just different ways of looking at the items that the residents that did the survey looked at what they thought was the most important. So again, it's something to look at.
Hey, Kyle, let me stop if you don't mind. On page 1, the renovation total cost,
Yes.
1.3, we're just, that's just kind of an estimate, right? Because amenities.
Yes, that is based upon, I actually did the last bid and I
Yeah.
added the tennis court renovation, which was only an add-on item at that time. So it was really like 1.26, let's say. So that really rounded it up to 1.3 million. That's why I had it kind of rounded up since we were looking at possibly doing that renovation now. And I also, into that, I went ahead and put in the batting cage for 15,000. That would make it completely 1.3 million. Of what, those are the two add-ons. I just added them on to make it 1.3 because I added them on to the amenities. My thing is, I think our biggest thing here is to decide tonight and in a couple of weeks. I think we really need to sit down and talk about, the mayor had mentioned the playground. Is that something we want to look at? I mean, you don't want to be shut down for 2 straight years. I mean, I think that's, I think everybody's in agreement with that. You don't want to do this project and then, the next following year, you're doing the exact same work. To redo the playground. If you're doing the playground, you're probably closing everything down anyway. No one's going to want to reserve the shelter, the pavilion anyway, and things of that nature. So again, is that important enough time for us to possibly add that on to the same type of a bid, and that would affect that first year carryover money from our budget projections, but it is something well within our means because that first year we're carrying over almost 375,000. So again, of course, we wouldn't spend that much, but we would be able to again do a playground like we want to do, and also add an entrance sign. Anything on our amenities you think that isn't or should not be a priority that we have?
Here's one question, and this struck me this morning, so I'm sorry. I was kind of looking at
You're fine.
everything. And this is maybe more of a question to Robert. If we didn't do the extra parking lot at first, since that's kind of the first thing you would have to do or the last thing you would do, if we separated that out just to bring this thing down a little bit, I agree that we need it. I'm not disagreeing there in the least, but if we needed to save, 164,000 and not redo the parking lot and just do that at a later date, does it make sense to split that out, since you wouldn't have to run over anything to redo that?
There'd be a premium in separating them out. What it would be, I'm not sure. I would say each half would be a 10% increase and per lot if you broke it out, per parking spot if you broke it out that way.
So Glenn, or just to make sure I'm understanding, would you say like we would possibly redo the parking lot that we have and only not do the park where the stage area, or excuse me, where the garage is now? Or
Right, not do the extra parts of the parking lot is what I'm suggesting. Just leave the parking lot as is. It's a question. It's just the idea would be, if we need to bring this number down, to me, that's sort of the first, you wouldn't have to run over anything to add parking 2 years later, 3 years later, 5 years later, whenever you wanted to do it. And we do have the Dries Pavilion, as well. It's not ideal, but it saves us potentially, 164,000.
I hear you, Glenn. If you look at the budget projection, we've got 1.4 budgeted for capital expenditures going into the 21 year, and then another 300,000 for the 21-22 year. So, this project doesn't get started till March. That's it. 2021, all of 21, it's closed.
Right.
So the way I see it is we've got 1.7 to play around with a little bit. To take anything out, especially like a parking lot, just doesn't make a lot of sense to me, especially if it's going to cost us more in a year or two down the road.
Okay. I was looking if we needed to bring this in a little bit tighter, to a lower number is where I'm at.
Yeah, I hear you. I mean, I was thinking that was going to be the case, and then I walked out of that meeting last week going, I mean, I think this has got a lot of steam now. By the time the meeting was over, it was, we need this. Let's figure it out and let's move on. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, the rest of you guys that were there, but
I think that's exactly what they're saying. It's time for us to move on it. I mean, Glenn, you were there, but
I think
Patty, Andrew, are you still on here by chance?
I'm here. Yep.
Hey, Miss Kaiser just emailed me saying she went up to the building and it was locked. I just sent her a thing saying that we could it's on YouTube, correct? That she could watch it online.
Well, that's what we published. Yep.
Okay. Could you email me a link, or is it on the city's website? So I can email her. If she's online right now, I can email a link to her or something, or is this something she probably can do?
Hold on. Let me see where it's.
Sorry, I apologize.
It's all right.
Go ahead, guys. Sorry, it was a side note. Sorry.
Hey, this is Athena. Sorry I joined by phone, and I joined a little bit late, but I just have a question because I want to make sure I know where we're at. I feel like from the time I've heard, we're a little bit repetitive from last meeting, and I'm glad Andrew's on here because I feel like we keep spinning the wheels. So is the city waiting on us to give them like a dream budget and then ask them for money? And is that where we're at, trying to figure out what we want? Or is this come before the city and we know what we have to work with? Because it does seem like every time we come back, we're kind of spinning the wheels. And then the project gets bigger and bigger when I still feel like we don't really know where city council stands except for give us some options. And so in terms of next steps, I'm just trying to figure out and wrap my head around what we need to do.
Okay, I'll let Jeff kind of chime in because he was at the meeting. My personal take is I left that meeting thinking that we need to come up with exactly what we want amenity-wise from our last bid. If there's anything in that bid that we think we can get rid of or we don't really want or we don't really need, and then if there's anything additional that we might want to add to it. Again, the biggest one being the playground is the one that I heard talked about the most since it's 14 years old. That's the one that I heard the most from. That's just my take from it. I'm pretty sure that council is completely on board. Mike can talk to that also, but I think council is completely on board with giving us the money that they said that they would. That's 1.25. Us rebidding it out, adding what we want, explain to them why we want the amenities that we want, and I think that they're ready to move on. Jeff, you and Mike can jump in.
I'll jump in real quick. Guys, it's Andrew. The council meeting is next Monday. We are presenting an amended budget on Monday, and part of that amended budget is the $750,000 loan. So there was already a $500,000 transfer in the budget for the earmarked for the park. There will now additionally be another $750,000 transfer that will be, categorized as a loan. So to answer Asina's question, I mean, at this point, I don't want to miscategorize anything, but the feel I got from the joint meeting we had was the council welcomed that budget amendment, and that'll be a first reading on Monday and a second reading at the December 7th meeting. I think there was a little bit of talk of tweaking things. I think it's correct to say that there was talk about the playground, but I think we sort of figured that this project's an 8-month plus project. At this point, it's not starting until sometime next year. If the playground was already budgeted to be in the 2021-2022 fiscal year budget, then it's kind of moot to talk about it as two separate projects anyway, because it's going to bleed into each other. So, my take on the last meeting was, we spent enough time on this. Let's move it forward. I think everybody felt comfortable that we were at a point to move it forward with some minor tweaks. And again, it's just a matter of we weren't taking action at that meeting. So the amended budget will happen first reading this coming Monday and then second reading December 7th.
That's pretty much how I got taken care of too.
I got the impression that what they wanted from us, at least what I left with, was the idea of a list, which is what I thought Kyle had kind of done really nicely today, was send us that list, and that would be the list that would go forward. Then I got the impression that that the mayor would like to kind of see the more explicit plans that go out because of his
Yes.
experience and expertise in, design, things like, where to lay the wiring and
Correct.
how wide an 8-foot trail is, and just different aspects that he's obviously had a lot more experience than I have, for sure.
And to piggyback on that, Glenn, I've got a meeting with Baron Becker. All of us do. It's our next park board meeting is 12/1. So at 6 o'clock, we're going to meet with Baron Becker as a park board, and then we'll have our regular park board meeting following that at 7. So at 6 o'clock, Baron Becker will be there. We can show them what we're looking at, if we want to add a playground, if we want to take anything out, but they'll be there. And what they're going to leave that meeting with, we're going to be able to tell them, this is exactly what we want. They're going to do another scope, another layout for the park that we can take and show council at the December meeting for council and say, this is what we want. So it kind of lays out nicely, and Andrew, Mike, jump in. I think it lays out nicely date wise and timeline wise to do that on 12/1. And then we go in to that second reading for the money the next week.
And
So
the other go ahead. I'm sorry, Asim.
No, I'm sorry. Yeah, this is Athena again. I'm just trying to get this timeline out. So at the end of this meeting tonight, do we need to have the number that we want to propose to city council? I'm just trying to wrap my head around, do all of us have a consensus on what we want? And do we need to get a number to send to city council to which they can consider, or are we still in the process of considering what we want? And again, sorry, it's just like a background question.
It's Andrew.
I'm not really sure where we're at.
Yeah.
I was kind of under the impression that we want to come up with the amenities that we want for sure, almost like a wish list of what we want. And I just based on what I sent you guys today, was just based upon the cost from the last bid. Because, we just don't know where those numbers were going to be when the next bid goes out. So I hate to say this, I was kind of doing this based upon our old numbers, hoping they would, again, somewhat be in the same stratosphere of what they are now. So when we rebid it, they'll be about the same.
I'll just jump in real quick. Sorry. I think, don't take me wrong when I say this, I think we might be getting a little too in the weeds on all of it. My impression from the joint meeting was council was comfortable with the numbers. They understood there were going to be some tweaks to it. They liked the 5-year plan that was put together. That was part of the concern leading into that meeting. I think that satisfied a lot of concerns there. There was concern about the playground that was discussed, concern about pickleball, a couple, other little things I think that were covered. So I really do think at this point, what's left is basically finalize the plans. Yes, if you want to bring them to the December council meeting, that's great. I think it's, it's a good thing to go along with the final, the second reading of the amended budget. But I think it's, the momentum is there. I think, as maybe Jeff said earlier, it's just a matter of get the tweaks and get it out to bid. Councilman Steckel, you can correct me if I'm wrong on that, but that was my takeaway from the meeting.
Yeah, simply put, I mean, what we're tasked to do tonight is not talk about numbers and anything like that. That's behind us. It's, are we good with what we have right now in the park with the plan we've come up with? And is there things we want to either A, remove, or B, that we want to add to it so that we can go to our meeting on December 1st with Mayor Becker and the mayor and a few council members to really put the fine details to it. I mean, that's what we're supposed to be doing tonight.
So is that plan, Mr. Steckel, that you're talking about the one that Kyle sent out? So for instance, could we all agree that the line item budget or the budget that Kyle sent out with the addition of the playground equipment, is that what we're looking at? I mean, can we vote on that and then move forward? Because honestly, I feel like every time we talk about this, something new is added, we change a direction, and at some point we need to have something to put forward. And if
I agree 100%. And I think that the first thing we might want to do is vote on, do we keep the current bid that we have? Is there anything we want to take out of it? And vote on that. If it's what we want to go with, we go with that. And then the second thing is the add-on items. Do we want to add the playground to the ask? And do we want to add the entrance sign to the ask, the two things? If there's something else I'm missing, we have till now and then 12/1 to, we meet with Baron Becker to discuss it. But that would be my proposal for you guys, would be that we vote on the amenities that we were going to add. That's why I sent you that list today. And the other items, the playground equipment and entrance, if you think that those are the items we should go forth with, if there's anything we need to take out of it. But I think that's what we need to take to Baron Becker and me, send them information so they can come up with some kind of plan and some kind of ideas for us at our 12/1 meeting with them. I mean, that would be my take. Jeff, you guys chime in, but that would be my take.
I mean, the plan is the plan. It's been the plan for God knows how long now. So I don't think the plan needs to change. The money's going to be there. Like I said, I think tonight we were just supposed to have a conversation about other things we want to potentially remove from the original plan or anything we want to add. And that's kind of where we're at. So there is no other details to get involved in.
That's correct.
Kyle, have we got the playground equipment spec'd out for what we would want if to added in here?
No, Baron Becker will come up with some 12/1. They'll have some different groups that will send them ideas. I'll give them the actual spacing of what we would want, and they will give us some ideas of what we want to go from there. But our next big thing will be deciding on the type of structures we want. Do we want plastic? Do we want steel? What do we want? And things of that nature. And they'll be able to give us some more ideas and cost to that, if that makes sense. One thing I would strongly suggest when we do this process and we start looking at playground equipment is you do the surfacing. It's a little more expensive, yes. We did it last time. I really think that's one of the things that we really need to do. I'm getting the facts. Is that we do that surfacing like we did last time. I think that's a good deal. The mulch and other things we put in there, just I don't think would be a very good fit, especially being ADA compatible and things of that nature. Especially after the entire park, if we don't make it ADA playground, that kind of defeats the purpose. But that's something we can talk about a little later. But that will be on it.
Hey, Kyle, so just want to make sure, is the 1.3, does that include the 225 for the playground or not?
No, sir. That 1.3 is just if we did the tennis renovation. We did the main bid last.
It's everything in your list. It's just the amenities that we've talked about for the last couple of years.
Correct.
The trail, the pavilion, baseball orientation, amphitheater, parking lot, tennis court, and landscaping.
Correct. And Glenn, those numbers aren't going to add up to 1.3 because I didn't put the excavation and some of those things, if that makes sense.
That's why I was confused. I was trying to get the Excel sheet out on the side here, and I was kind of trying to figure out how it came up to 1.3, and it didn't balance with the two.
It was like 1.2.
All right.
It was like 1.265, and then I added the other ones in.
Right. I got it now. Thanks. And then just another clarifying question. I want to make sure I understand. So your thought was that the playground equipment's probably going to be somewhere north of 3, given what we spent last time, what it's going to be this time. Is that correct still? Is that still your assessment, Kyle?
Well, truthfully, when the 225 is what I'm expecting, that's what the evaluation, because when we looked at it before, it was like 185,000, 180,000.
Okay, so this is with that added on. So this is where we expect
what I would think what we could get now for what we did. Yes, sir.
So we're still below 1.6.
Oh yeah. Yes.
Okay. I mean, by about 75,000.
Yeah, the playground would be, again, and we can look at different items of how we want to lay that out. But you're looking at the playground what we got last time. I don't have it in front of me, but it's like.
That's all right. I'm just again,
125,
trying to go with
we
Jeff's
can-
idea of kind of general numbers here. So we're
Because the
about
servicing is not as expensive now.
a 1.525 roughly with the playground. And then is an entrance sign, is that $5,000? Is it 10 grand? Is it 30 grand? What's an entrance sign go for?
That's a great question. Above my pay grade. I'm not positive. I'm not going to sit here and lie to you guys. I would think of what we want. You're going to want something nice, of course, and something that's going to be, structurally sound that kids can't destroy. But at the same time, I think that's going to be a question to Bear and Becker to come up with an idea of what the cost will be for that.
We know what happens to the surplus equipment, playground equipment. I mean,
What
some,
happens to it?
yeah, I mean, some that would still be usable, I believe, when you look at it, a lesser park, or I don't know how you want to say that, but
That might be an Andrew question. I know the stuff that we do for Walton, like when we tear up field turf, we're legally liable for that equipment. So we cannot, or that field turf, we can't like give it away. I mean, so what we do, we put it by a dumpster and tell people that we're going to leave it by the dumpster and they can come pick it up. I don't know if we're legally allowed.
Yeah,
but
Kentucky
we
surplus
can,
laws.
we can't,
Kentucky
please.
surplus laws basically require us to surplus. I mean, really, if I joked about this the other day, literally for me to throw away a piece of paper, I technically have to sell it. So pretty much everything that is city-owned property has to be surplused and then either sold, or it can be donated to like another city, or like we've donated fire trucks to other cities before, things like that.
I think there's a value to that equipment that's sitting there right now.
Hey, this is Athena. Sorry to take it back to ground zero, and I appreciate you guys dumbing it down for me again, but I'm just trying to think we've been spinning our wheels for many months now. And so if at the end of this meeting, what I understand is a number that we want to all agree on to put forth to the city council. Did we talk about that number and talk about all of that? All the numbers that Kyle sent to us, plus the playground equipment. So if it's 1.3, maybe it's 1.5 we put forward, because ultimately we've all decided that we need to know a number in which to work. And again, I'm sorry for just bringing it back to basics, but I'm trying to figure out how do we move forward and what are the next steps. And so I'm willing to come up with put a number forward for a vote so that we can take that to city council, unless I'm totally missing the point. And I feel like we can talk about all these details once we know what they're willing to put in. So
I think two things need to happen. One, we need to make a motion to continue on with the original plan we had. And then we could take that back to Baron Becker. And then two, we have a discussion if we're going to make a motion to add any amenities such as the playground to this bid. I don't think numbers need to be discussed whatsoever. They've already been discussed for 2 years. They're there. I mean, we've got the 1.25, they've transferred the 5, we got the loan. So that's just that's in the past already. We need to make a motion to move forward with the original plan and to either add or not add any. That's it.
Are we beyond the time limit, Kyle, as far
Yes,
as
sir.
rebidding? That's
Yes,
what I
sir.
thought.
Rebid it.
So
Yes, sir.
we don't know the real numbers. The
No,
real
sir.
numbers are going to have to be rebid and
Yes, sir.
get them. But we've got a budget that tells us what we can do and what we can't do.
Correct.
Okay.
So I guess the question to me is, do we want to go with the amenities listed on page 1 of Kyle's, the PDF that Kyle attached to his email? And do we want to add the playground and the entrance sign to that? And maybe we separate it out, unless there's more discussion that we need to do. I see Jeff rolling his eyes, but unless there's more discussion that we need to do,
Guys,
I'm good. I'm good with making a motion that we vote on the initial amenities first. Do we want to take these as a whole, and I'll read them off just for the record, and then we'll make a second motion about the playground and the entrance sign. So
I think that's a good idea.
okay, so let's. So I'm just for the record and for the notes.
Glenn, can I interrupt you? I'm going to
Sure.
interrupt you. Hey, mark off. I can do the batting cage personally. We can do that cheaper. So we'll drop the batting cage from the amenities. We can do that. That's something I can do. I've done them at my complex. I'll get railroad ties. We can do that. And that's a lot cheaper than 15 grand. Trust me, and it'll be just as good. So you don't need.
So here's what I'm going to propose, and we'll need to do an up-down vote on this. And down is fine, but then you have to tell me what you would take in or put in or put out. So in the initial list, we're going to have the walking trail, the pavilion, which is the big budget item, the baseball field orientation and dugouts, the amphitheater, the 76 spot parking lot, the tennis court resurfacing, the landscaping, and the other kind of groundwork, earthwork that we need to do that would bring that up to about 1.3 mil. So that's the first proposal. And I'm going to ask each of the individual members for a vote, just up or down on that initial process. Then we'll go to the second round and see if we want to add that. So it's the walking trail, the pavilion, baseball field orientation, dugout, amphitheater, parking lot, tennis court resurfacing and landscaping, and the earthworks. So I'm going to propose that we have a vote. I need a second.
Second.
Thank you. All right, Jeff, up or down?
Up.
Robert?
Up.
Santa?
Up.
I'm up as well.
Okay, that's 4-0. And
Yep.
then Glenn, do you want to go ahead and do the other items?
Yep, that's
we would
exactly where I'm going to go. Yep.
And we would probably just give me the flexibility here. These would probably be addendum add-on items, but not the entrance sign probably won't be, but the playground. And
I don't think we should. I think we should. My proposal was going to be to include the playground and the entrance sign. And so it's one package that goes to the city council.
Okay.
Unless somebody disagrees, that's going to be my proposal, is that, do you agree to add the playground, new playground equipment, and covering, ground covering, and the entrance sign? I need a second. That's a proposal. So I need a second.
Second.
All right. We're going to do the same order. Jeff, do you want to up or down?
Up.
I'm sorry.
Up.
Robert?
Up.
Asena? Asena, I'm sorry, I didn't get that.
Yes.
Okay, and I'd be up as well.
Okay.
So that would be the package, the list of things that would go to the mayor and the council for their meeting. And I think if they say, we're going to, as part of the pre-meeting materials, I just say, we think this is going to come in less than 1.6 mil. And that just it's a less than sign. If something comes off the train tracks, then, so be it. We'll deal with it, later.
Makes sense to me, Glenn.
And so, Andrew, this is Asina. I have a question. Is that what we need, like an all-around number? What we've just taken a vote on, that then will be before the city council?
So what's before city council is an amended budget. The number that's going for the amended budget. Okay, we're talking about 2 fiscal years here as this way this boils down. So what we talked about at the joint meeting was there was already a $500,000 transfer that was in the budget for this year for the park. The amended budget, we're adding 750 to that. The playground equipment, the 200 and whatever, I'm sorry, I don't have the paperwork in front of me right now, but the 260, I think it was 240, whatever it was reflected in the 5-year plan that Kyle provided as being a 2021, 2022 fiscal year expense coming out of the park fund. So basically, and again, I apologize, I don't have the numbers in front of me. Basically, there's a transfer. There's 2 transfers that are going to happen from the city to the park fund this fiscal year, which would be a $500,000 grant, so to speak, the $750,000 loan. The balance of whatever the renovation costs would come out of park funds that are either already there or that will come in as a result of next year's tax revenue as well, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
I mean, I think again, in terms of numbers to this, as far as city council goes, I think those are kind of set at this point. The remainder is what you want to come out of the park fund. So, and
I think, just to jump in, I think if the project doesn't get started till March-ish timeframe, technically we and if it runs a little bit over time-wise, we would technically have the FY21 tax money coming in at the end of October as well. And if things don't quite work out, I'm waving my hands here, but if things don't quite work out with air quotes as far as money goes, we should get some additional revenue. It'll mess up the 5-year plan, but at least we have the additional revenue that's coming in at the end of October, early November next year to add to our funds. You know what I'm saying? So if things are a little bit high, we've got it covered at the end.
And also, I'd like to point out that our expenses for the next 18 months, for the most part, will be almost nil outside of Crescent Park and Irish Road Park and doing some trash and things of that nature. So that those costs for the next year and a half are going to be almost minimal. So it's not we're going to have anything going out like we normally do, if that makes sense too.
Yeah, no, that's again, it just sort of gives us a little bit of room to kind of play with. All right, I'm going to ask this question, and I'm hoping the answer is no. Are there any other items in addition to the 2 that we added that people feel like that anyone on the board feels like we should consider adding? Or do we want to take the package as is to city council and stop? I want to make very certain that we're all on the same page and there's nothing else that we're thinking about. I'm going to make the proposal. I need a second. Anybody want a second?
Hey, Glenn.
Yeah.
We don't need to add. We're going through this whole process. We don't need to add the fiber optics Wi-Fi security system into this bid process, right? I mean, you feel that's something we can just purchase on the side after the renovations?
I think that's the only major thing. Not even major. That's not even. That's a $10,000 or $12,000 project at most.
That's what makes that's included before we.
Yeah, that's the only thing that's.
Before we dump this money in the park, that we got somewhat of a way to protect it a little bit here.
Yeah, no, I agree. I agree with Jeff very strongly, actually, that I think that's one major thing that I want to make sure. It's just crazy to sink this kind of money into something and then have somebody decide that they don't like it or don't want it, whatever, and destroy it.
I met with our city's new IT vendor the other day. And they are the IT vendor for the city of Newport as well. And they have a phenomenal camera system set up down there. So, I can talk to them about that. And
Good.
I think it's something that can be done very, very reasonable. This IT company is very good at doing things in a very reasonable fashion, but getting good results. So
The concern, Andrew's been access. It's never been the technology. It's the cost to run cable.
I know they're trying to get, well, I shouldn't say I know. I believe they're trying to get Fioptics up to the apartments up there, in which case it would run right by the property. But
Okay.
I also have a person I can check with on that, and I will do so this week.
Can you just send the park board an email when you find an answer to that out? I think Jeff raises a valid point. It's not going to derail anything, but that is a really important concern. It's something we've wrestled with as well.
The thing is, Fioptics and the connected part is good. I will say you can put in a very good surveillance system that records without the internet portion. So at least we would be able to have some accountability for whoever has been doing some of the damage. So that can be done independent of the internet. But so if for some reason the internet were an insurmountable cost, I can tell you a surveillance system won't be.
Okay.
All right.
That's fair.
I'm good now, Glenn.
All right. Awesome. I'm going to just say we want to vote on it. I just like to, for the record, just so we're not going to add anything to this and that this is the complete package and we're done. So Jeff, I'm going to.
Glenn, the only thing I'd like to just to make sure that when I take and I give all this information to Bayer and Becker, and I'll probably do that tomorrow, go talk to them, or at least this week, they might come back and say with that playground now, and if we're lowering and putting playground and we're lowering that stuff, they might want some kind of fencing that might want to go around the playground for, safety reasons, something like that, because the playground we've not really talked to them about. So if there's something adjacent to that, we might have to add. I'm not saying that'll be very expensive, don't get me wrong, but there might be something we have to add because of the playground being updated, if that makes sense. I'm not trying to throw a wrench in here whatsoever.
I mean, the mayor mentioned that as well. I don't know if I've had my kids up there 30 times, 50 times, probably in the last 10 years. And I've never thought, wow, we need a fence. You know what I mean?
I agree.
And trust me, my children are not any better behaved, and likely on the other end, being that the last name's Rice, worse behaved than most other children. So I hope they're not listening. But anyway, bottom line, that was the first time I'd ever heard anybody, and I've, talked to folks in them up there. That's the first time I've ever heard anybody say we need fencing up here. I'm willing to do it. I'm just saying that.
Right, and I agree.
That was the first time I'd ever. I'd never thought about it. I never thought we needed it. I never even considered it.
Cool.
But I guess my point is, can we do that later?
Yeah, we can do whatever you guys want.
Or we could throw it in now and just see what the money comes, see what it comes back.
I'll like I said, I can easily talk to Bayer and Becker and get their point of view, because I know that the mayor's just one of the things he wanted me to make sure I talked to Bayer and Becker about if safety liability wise, if we needed any kind of fencing to go around that. So I didn't want this to be a blindside you guys next meeting if you vote on not adding anything. And I went ahead and added something. I'm not trying to. I'm just trying to just cover all my bases on each of the councils.
I'm going to propose that we include the fence just because it was important to the mayor. And I just don't want to see it get derailed. I look to the rest of the board to see what you guys think. But I just don't want it to get derailed on something that I consider kind of small potatoes.
And he'll be at that meeting 12/1. And if he wants to chime in, then there's no offense or buts. That's not an issue. And we can go from there too.
Yeah, Glenn, I would vote to amend, or you make a motion to amend the other items to think about. They had the fencing onto the playground entrance.
Okay. And so let me just ask it this way. I guess let's take a vote on it just to kind of make sure we're going to add the fencing to that. Just take the vote and record this. So Robert?
Sorry, just for clarity's sake, you have a motion. You need a second before you vote.
Yes,
Robert, your second?
yes.
Okay, so make sure.
I thought we were voting.
We were, but I got derailed. All right, Robert's 2 thumbs up, so he seconds it and votes yes.
Okay.
Mr. Eplin.
Yes.
All right. Asina.
Yes.
All right, and Glenn's a yes.
Okay, so 4-0. Okay. Again, the only thing going forward is that on 12/1, make sure everybody can be at our meeting. 6 o'clock, we'll have Baron Becker beforehand. At 6 o'clock at the well, hopefully at council chambers. And then 7 o'clock, we'll have our park board meeting. And again, also that 12/1 meeting, we'll have some council members and hopefully the mayor can make that work also. And Andrew, would you be able to possibly be involved in that too?
Yes, and yeah, just to clarify, if the county is still red, we're not doing meetings in person at the city. So I guess we'll say stay tuned on that one.
Yeah, no problem.
I think we've set a record, folks. I think this is the first time, at least in the decade or so that I've been involved, that we've ever had 3 votes in one meeting.
The fourth one's coming up because we can adjourn.
Let it be noted.
Okay.
All right. Any other business?
No, sir.
I'm good.
Awesome.
All right.
I
Hey,
propose
guys,
that
I'm
we
going to send you
adjourn.
an email tomorrow with all this information in the minutes. I'll make sure they're included to you when I send them to the city. And again, if you guys need anything else, anything I send to Baron Becker, I'm going to CC all you guys on. And if you want to chime in, if I leave something out or something doesn't look right to you, make sure you guys chime in on it. Okay.
Sounds good. Thank you, Kyle. I propose we adjourn.
Good night. Thank you, guys.
Seconded.
All right, we're done.
Yay.
Thank you.
Thanks a
Bye.
lot.
Guys, take care.